92.7. We're live from our studios here at Adisawe, Kanda, Accra. Coming up tonight, National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat NIMOS expresses alarm over what it says is the increasing involvement of miners in Galamsey activities across the country. Meanwhile, the task force has served notice that it will respond with force whenever its personnel come under attack during operations. Also tonight, government says it has allocated resources to the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement to develop and invest in an improved tomato variety aimed at boosting local production. Later on, UN General Assembly votes on historic resolution to declare transatlantic slave trade gravest crime against humanity. Details of these and more plus business sports in the next 1 hour. If you stay with us. Before we go into that, Christabel Success Trevor is here with the news summaries. Christabel, what do you have?
The Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit DOVSU of the Ghana Police Court has ordered a Laboni SHS French tutor, Godwin Adibli, to open his defense after establishing that he has a case to answer for the charge of indecent assault against a 16-year-old student of the school. Lawyers of the 45-year-old filed a submission of no case after the prosecution closed its case. The court held that the prosecution had established a prima facie against Godwin Adibli. Now, the Northern Regional Minister Adolf John Ali says diplomat and visual artist Ibrahim Mahama, along with the Regional Police Commander, are scheduled to meet with the Inspector General of Police, IGP, today regarding an ongoing investigation into his alleged assault case. The minister emphasized the region's commitment to ensuring justice is served, stating that the meeting is part of the investigative process, and we're bringing you all of those details. Now, the Assemblies of God Ghana has thrown its support behind President John Dramani Mahama following reports that Lincoln University in the United States has withdrawn plans to confer an honorary doctorate on him. This development is said to be linked to his stance on LGBTQ issues, which has drawn very much of mixed reactions among Ghanaians and worldwide. Well, we have all of these on our website, 3news.com. Grace, over to you.
Thank you, Christabel, for bringing us the news summaries. Let's now get into the bulletin, beginning from that NIMOS tangent. And the Director of Operations at the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, Colonel Dominic Boa, has raised fresh concerns over the growing involvement of children in illegal mining, describing the situation as deeply troubling. Speaking at NIMOS's Editors Forum and quarterly press briefing in Accra, Colonel Boa revealed that miners have been found actively participating in Galamsey operations, exposing them to dangerous conditions and long-term harm. He says the matter has been referred to the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection and the Department of Social Welfare for urgent intervention, rescue and rehabilitation of the affected children.
Now, a lot of equipment have been destroyed. Let me reiterate that the metal components in the waterways, we have started collaboration with the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, GIZEC. They are currently on the Alcobra. I was there last week with them. And they are packing all the damaged chamfans, metal fabrications which are on the waterway, and will move diligently from one water body to the other and pack all the scrap. We can put them to good use. Pumping machines, through the Ministry of Agriculture, they will be repurposed. As we've seen, several of them have been donated to farmers. We want to ensure that they are not sent back to the Galamsey site, but they are repurposed for good use, as well as other equipment. Vehicles seized, we push them into the operations once they are formally seized by the Attorney General Department, so that we pull the resources together and get this canker eliminated. So there's one other aspect I'll talk about, that is weapons. There are several weapons in the space. As you can see, 59 weapons, there are more. And they are basically pump action guns in the hands of these Galamseyers. And that is a huge risk, a national security risk. Because when they have them in the field, any provocation, they will fire. We had a few brushes where one of my soldiers was shot. Luckily, it was in his thigh and he's recovering. But as I reiterated the last time, NIMOS will not stand by and watch people use weapons against us. We are better trained in the weapons, and therefore I'll send a warning out there once again that anybody who does, NIMOS will deal with them ruthlessly. It is a problem that we are trying to address, but we have the right to self-defense. And let no Galamsey miss that. If you go to the field with weapon and you try to fire it, a lot more will be at you. So I talk about arrest, majority of them Chinese. I must say that the Chinese ambassador is also alarmed at the rate at which the Chinese, they don't pass through his hands. And there is a network or a cabal that traffic these Chinese who come. Sometimes they don't even know Accra. They get visa to stay and straight they are sent to the bush. And that is our own citizens who collaborate with them. So we need to watch that space because these are the people who are destroying our forests, our water bodies. Then I think at Osino also, one night, 32 Nigerians will gloss over the security risk, but that is a huge risk. In collaboration with the national security, we are trying to identify the status of these whenever we arrest them. There's a protocol for the foreigners. They are processed through NIMOS and then to immigration where the enforcement unit handle them accordingly.
NIMOS, established in 2025, is leading Ghana's intensified crackdown on illegal mining with a mandate to reclaim degraded forest reserves and polluted water bodies. Since its inception, the task force has carried out operations across several regions, restoring state control over seized mining zones, making hundreds of arrests, and confiscating and destroying equipment used in illegal mining activities. The team has also seized some illicit firearms from illegal miners. According to Ken Oboa, NIMOS operations are becoming increasingly dangerous, and as you heard him, he has warned that attacks on task force members will no longer be tolerated. But does this warning signal a new phase in enforcement, and what does it mean for both environmental protection and human rights? Let's bring in Darrell Bosu, who is Deputy National Director of Arusha, Ghana, and have his assessment on this. Mr. Bosu, if you can hear me, thank you for your time tonight.
Yes, good afternoon. I can hear you very well, and I'm really happy to be here.
Right. So, first off, NIMOS is concerned about the involvement of miners in illegal mining. Have you, at Arusha, also identified this development, and what does it speak about the Galamsey menace?
Yes, thank you. I think one thing I must say before I get on to some of the issues that were raised is that NIMOS indeed has come to change the landscape, especially when it comes to government's position and also action to deal with the menace of Galamsey. It's a very strategic intervention that the government put forward. But I must say that what we have seen in terms of all the issues that Ken Oboa did mention about the arms in the system, the impunity with which the miners are working, and even the presence of miners in the field and all of that. These are actually realities on the ground. They were there before this government took office in 2025. We have known about these issues. So I believe that NIMOS should have taken all of these things in its stride as it went out there in the field. But I think one point I need to make, and that is the fact that ever since NIMOS was established, if you look at the objective, the strategy they plan to deploy and engage, I see NIMOS now operating like a vehicle that was meant to use diesel, but they are now feeding it with maybe oil palm, and as such, it's not able to function very well.
Right.
And that is the problem with NIMOS. It is now operating below its optimal capacity.
Yes, Mr. Bosu, let me have you hold on for me. We'll have that broad conversation on the work of NIMOS. Let me also bring in Dr. James Kofi Annan. He is the Executive Director of Challenging Heights, a child-related organization. Let's have that children's conversation on their involvement in Galamsey, and then we'll come back and talk about NIMOS extensively. So, Mr. Annan, thank you also for your time. this revelation that children are now being heavily involved in illegal mining, has it come to the attention of Challenging Heights? What do you think is accounting for this development, and how do you even receive it in the first place?
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, it has come to our attention. Last year, together with the Ghana Police Service, we rescued a number of boys and girls from the mining area. Those we rescued, a lot of them were even Nigerians who were forced into prostitution, and we had to repatriate them. We also observed a number of cases of Ghanaian children who are involved, some of whom actually wield weapons in the course of their activities. So, yes, it has come to our attention, and we are very concerned about what is happening.
Were you able to find out why these children are now heavily involved in illegal mining?
Well, for a country, we already have an issue where 24% of all Ghanaian children are involved in economic activities. They are economically active. And you have almost 1 million children who are not in school. We also have a lot of, even though Ghana has made progress in terms of our economic advancement, we have a lot of disparities in the economic fortunes of individuals, especially when it comes to rural areas. And these galamsey activities are practiced mainly in rural communities. So families are poor, children are not attending school. It becomes an opportunity for galamseyers to recruit children into the activities because, families are looking for sources of livelihood. Children are not in school, so what do? They collaborate to do illegal activities. So that's what is accounting for children's involvement. But we have to remember that we don't have any excuse. The Children's Act is very clear. You don't involve a child in hazardous activities. And we also, as a country, we have the hazardous activity framework that clearly defines what an hazardous work is. And mining and its related activities are
fall into
classified
that category.
as hazardous work. So whoever is deploying or employing children in mining, whether legal or illegal, is performing an illegal activity, and we must all be concerned about it because you see, these children are seeing the guns that these volunteers are wielding. They are seeing the violence that are being perpetrated. They are seeing rape. They are seeing prostitution. So we are actually, putting them in a certain violent culture. It is not good for their development, but it's also not good for our national security. And so we must not play or joke with this situation that we are seeing.
Right. How do we tackle it head on?
I think that the root cause must be tackled first. If galamsey is addressed, there wouldn't be children involvement. In the meantime, for us, we are for the children. So in the meantime, if galamsey is going on, we should ensure that children are not participating. And anyone who involves a child under the Children's Act, you can arrest the person and prosecute.
Ms. Annan, it looks like we're losing you. Right. We've been speaking with Dr. James Kofi Annan. He's Executive Director of Challenging Heights, a child-based organization, talking to us about the involvement of children in galamsey and how we can tackle it head-on. Dara Bosude is still on the line with me. Mr. Bosu, if you can hear me, let's continue the conversation now. And now talk about the assessment of the operations of NIMOS so far. You say they are working beyond or beneath their strength?
Yes, as I was indicating,
Right.
NIMOS, as it was set up, is right now, the way we say it, operating below their optimal capacity, because as we know, originally they were set up to be deployed permanently to some key locations across the country, mostly the hotspots, and also to be resource sufficient to be able to do the work that they are doing. And right now, if you listen to the presser with the editors, they are talking about the need for logistics, resources, vehicles, and all of that. It tells you that NIMO's work is woefully under-resourced, and therefore they are not able to even protect themselves when they are confronted by other miners who are really coming with the intention to attack them. So I think that last year during the budget reading, the government allocated about 150 million Ghana cedis to NIMOS. I think it's about time we start allocating these resources to them so that they can effectively do their job. All the issues they are talking about, the people that are confronting them in the field, the issues of logistics, the ability to even prosecute people who are arrested and all of that, it all boils down to getting the necessary resources, both in personnel and also in terms of equipment and people on the ground to be able to process people who are arrested and all of that. At the moment, they are not getting the full complement of these resources. So until that is done, NIMOS is going to keep struggling. And unfortunately, if they keep struggling, it means that our commitment to the fight against Galamsey is not going to be as expected.
Right.
So I think there's a lot more we need to do to support NIMOS. So far, I don't doubt, and we have seen their activities on the ground. The men and women with boots on the ground are really doing an excellent job. But I think at the moment, they are woefully under-resourced, and until that changes, we are not going to see the result that we
desire from them. The Director of Operations has served notice they will return force for force, given the increasing use of weapons by illegal miners and also attacks on the task force members. What do you make of this an eye-for-an-eye approach?
I think it's not about an eye-for-an-eye. It's more about self-defense. And if you are undertaking an illegal activity, and a state-mandated agency is out there to ensure compliance, and you decide to really then engage them as some of them are doing, then the military team also have every opportunity to also defend themselves. This is also something that anybody, even when you are home and somebody comes to steal from you, you can take steps as the law allows you. So I believe that it's in the right direction, and this will actually serve as a warning to the illegal miners out there who are so recalcitrant and are engaging in activity with a lot of impunity. I think it's a much welcome warning, and I think we should all heed and allow NIMOS to do the work that they are mandated to do.
Then the questions about the human rights implications of a more aggressive crackdown also arise. You don't think so?
Not at all. I think at the moment, NIMOS have been very restrained in the way they've been handling some of these issues. They've been very professional about their job. And once there's an issue of self-defense, in this case, there's no reason why an illegal operator should be deciding to engage the military who are on their normal duty as well. So I think that it boils down to really calling all these illegal miners also to be more responsible and to stop just from what they are doing. There's no issue about human rights abuses here at all. I think every party must play their role well, and them also do their work. The illegal miners too must learn to stop the illegal activities they engage in.
When you listen to Colonel Bois, he mentioned categorically that the number of foreign nationals involved in illegal mining in the country is getting out of hand. And then we've had some of them also arrested. What is the most effective approach in handling these arrests? Do you think repatriating them without prosecution undermines the fight against Galamsey? What is the effective way to deal with it?
I think that is a fact. And Colonel Bois is very right. On the ground, everywhere you go, you go to the Wassa area, Eastern region, Ashanti, most of these areas, you see the Burkinabes, you see the Nigerians in most of these come. So they are there in their numbers. And I think that the government's own earlier policy to repatriate these people instead of really prosecuting them has contributed to this. They don't see any...
You have just 1 minute remaining.
Well, I apologize for that. We'll raise Daryl Bosu again and conclude on that conversation on how we would deal with foreign nationals who are arrested and who are also involved in illegal mining in the country. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. While we are trying to engage Daryl Bosu, raising back on the line, let's begin that conversation on tomatoes. And government is immediately providing support to local tomato farmers to boost local production. Addressing a news conference, Minister for Food and Agriculture, Eric Opoku, says sustainable irrigation, prevention of post-harvest losses and a ready market are a priority for government to prevent any looming tomato shortage. The move by the government is in response to concerns of a looming tomato shortage after Burkina Faso announced a ban on tomato exports. The minister says these efforts will immediately augment production efforts to reduce any tomato hikes. We can listen to the minister now.
And the second challenge has to do with management of post-harvest losses. Mr. Speaker, in that case, post-harvest losses alone constitute 30% of our produce. So we are reporting total production of 510,000 tons, total production. 30% had gone waste already. So when you add that 30%, you are bringing on board additional 153,000 tons. So if we are able to eliminate post-harvest losses alone, we are adding onto our production 153,000 tons of tomato. That reduces the gap from 300 to 140,000. Mr. Speaker, what are we doing to contain the situation? On assumption of office, after we had diagnosed the challenges, ascertained the root causes of the situation, we decided to launch a program called Vegetable Development Project, popularly known as Yeridua. This project was launched somewhere in June, July last year. Mr. Speaker, the project is anchored on 3 pillars. 1 is seed. 1 is seed. And then 2 is irrigation. And 3 is market.
The minister also ordered that government has allocated resources to the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement to develop and invest in an improved tomato variety aimed at boosting local production. The minister says the new tomato variety is expected to yield over 20 tons per hectare, a step toward addressing Ghana's estimated 300,000 ton deficit needed to attain self-sufficiency in tomato production. He added that government strategy to reduce the estimated 30% post-harvest losses will play a critical role in addressing the country's tomato production challenges.
Have a gap of approximately 300,000 metric tons to close before we can attain sufficiency in tomato production in Ghana. But we have to understand, we have to have a better appreciation of the challenge, the root cause of it, before we can prefer the appropriate solution to deal with it. While our counterparts in Burkina Faso are doing 18 tons per hectare, we are doing 8 tons. So what is the problem? The problem is the seed, the variety that is used in the production of tomatoes. And so we have decided, and this morning we had a meeting with WACI of Legon and some of the research institutions, and they have given us the assurance that they can give us a variety that can give us more than 20 tons per hectare. Yeah. More than 20 tons per hectare. So we are asking, we are committing them, we have made some resources available to ensure that we develop that variety to bring a lasting solution to the problem.
That was the Minister of Agri, Eric Opoku. There. Let us bring in Anthony Morrison. He's Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Agribusiness Executives. Mr. Morrison, thank you for your time. I saw you at the presser earlier today. The Minister mentions irrigation, ready market, and the reduction of post-harvest losses. Is this the stellar solution to Ghana's problems when it comes to tomato production?
Well, thank you very much, and very good evening to your cherished listeners. Let me correct it. I'm the CEO, Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. Yes, absolutely. I think the Minister rightly stated clearly the key challenges. I would say that the icing on the cake, which is the golden pot, will be the financing, government commitment to make sure that what we are talking about in terms of quality seed, in terms of fertilizer, in terms of irrigation, and also the post-harvest management will be realized. Money is key towards addressing all these challenges. So the Minister was right on that. We are only hoping that on the side of the private sector, the government will keep to their promise, and we will not go and negotiate with Burkina Faso, and we will stop all forms of tomatoes importation so that the private sector and the corporate institutions can adequately invest into the tomato sector.
But there's also the conversation about the development of the new improved variety. Does this guarantee our sufficiency, and how do we make it attractive for Ghanaians to adopt it?
Well, if you compare what's happening in Burkina Faso to Ghana, Burkina Faso are doing 17,000 hectares under full irrigation, and they are producing all year round. So in total, in effect, they are possibly doing around 17,000 times 3, okay, or maybe times 4. Now, if we are able to, and also they are doing about 17 to 80 metric tons per hectare. Now, in our case, we are doing about 47,000 for minor season, which is about 8 metric tons per hectare, and we are doing 92,000 in major season. That is why in major season, you see that we always have post-harvest losses because we always have glut. Now, what we are saying is that if the cold chain system, the post-harvest system of processing can be brought on board, the issue of the major season with regards to post-harvest will be something that we should work on. The yields are very important. The yields determine the quantity of, or the quality of seed determine the yields you get and the quantity. Now, if you have a very poor seed, which is not drought resistant or drought tolerant or disease tolerant, and does not give you the yield, you are doing nothing, because the key important point of farming is increased yield, and that is very important. Just like anyone, majority of the people who marry, everybody marries, 90% wants to have children in our Ghanaian parlance. So if you farm, you need to have yield, and that is why we need to start with the seed, the quality of the seed. The engine of growth for agriculture is the seed, how quality the seed is. So if you have a good quality seed, like a good engine of your car that you are traveling from here to maybe Nigeria, that good engine is the one that is taking you there. It's not because the ties are strong or that. The ties are only enablers. So, for instance, quality fertilizers are enablers. Quality crop protection products are enablers. Like the pesticides and all that, they are all enablers. But what will make the enablers work is the seed, the quality of that seed. And that must be addressed as a country going forward. And this is why we also agree with the Honorable Minister that WACI should be given the mandate to coordinate with CSRR, crop research and the like, so that, and the private sector who are into seed production, so we can bring this to a closure, and making sure that our farmers yield per hectare and the economic viability will be realized.
I have seen your press release regarding how we should go about solving the tomato issue, an 8-pager release you have given on to us. But if you have to summarize that for me in your top 3 points as strategies, what would that be?
Well, the simplest thing to say is that the Chamber is partnering with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture under the Ghana Corporate Farms Alliance for us to be able to develop a 5,000 acres of land, which is also close to the river body at Polo. Now, as part of the strategy, is to make sure that any corporate institution that wants to produce tomato or any other vegetable in such quantity, the Chamber is available to provide the technical support and provide the land at a minimum cost. That notwithstanding, with regards to our strategy, we have clearly supported the minister's position, which was also taken out of our press statement. So we are marching on the same footpath. The only challenge we will have is that we need that absolute guarantee and commitment from government to ban importation and also to provide the required financing for us to be able to achieve the purpose.
Right. Mr. Morrison, thank you for your time tonight. Anthony Kofito Morrison, he is the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness Executives, talking to us about how Ghana will solve the looming tomato shortage as a result of an announcement of a ban on tomato export to Ghana by Burkina Faso. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let us take a flight to the United States of America, specifically the UN General Assembly headquarters in New York, where breaking news coming in indicates Ghana's motion for the United Nations to declare the transatlantic slave trade as a gravest crime against humanity has been adopted by the UN. We know President Mahama and other presidents have been on this for a while, making a case for that adoption to be done. So this is how the results came in terms of the voting. Those who voted in favor, 123 votes in favor, 3 votes against, and 52 votes in absentia. The culprits of the slave trade, Portugal, Spain, UK, USA, did they abstain or voted against the culprits of the slave trade? We'll find out shortly. But let's listen to President Mahama when he was making a case before that vote was cast.
In closing, I would like to offer this quote by Nelson Mandela. And he says, our human compassion binds us the one to the other, not in pity or patronizing, but as human beings who have learned how to turn our common suffering into hope for the future. Truth begins with language. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, tomorrow we vote on a historic resolution that will be another step in the journey of establishing truth. We stand united as Africans, whether on the continent or any part of the world, and link up with people of conscience around the world to seek truth and justice and restore the dignity and humanity of victims of the slave trade. This is a resolution of destiny. And I hope all of you will vote tomorrow to establish truth so that together we can pass this historic resolution and finally acknowledge the full horrors of these transgressions against humanity of the approximately 15 million human beings who were enslaved. I thank you very much for your attention. Of history, let it be recorded that when history beckoned, we did what was right for the memory of the millions who suffered the indignity of the slave trade and those who continue to suffer racial discrimination. Let our vote on this resolution restore their dignity and humanity.
Well, you heard President Mahama there, and the outcome of that vote is that Ghana's motion for the United Nations to declare the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity has been adopted by the UN. 123 votes were in favor of the declaration, 3 votes against, and 52 in absentia. And so that is the latest coming from New York. That vote has ended, and then it has been declared the gravest crime against humanity. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We've been talking about NIMOS. We've also been talking about how Ghana can solve that tomato challenge. Send us your views and comments on our various social media platforms. Let us also know how you feel about all of this. This is Hot Edition. We are back shortly after this break. Stay with us. Slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity has been adopted by the United Nations. At the end of voting, 123 votes were in favor of the declaration, 3 votes in abstentia, and also 52 votes in abstentia and 3 votes against. Let us hear President Mahama making a case for that vote earlier on, and then we can bring in an expert in the field.
It's a testament to that fact. In closing, I would like to offer this quote by Nelson Mandela. And he says, "Our human compassion binds us the one to the other, not in pity or patronizing, but as human beings who have learned how to turn our common suffering into hope for the future. Truth begins with language." Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, tomorrow we vote on a historic resolution that will be another step in the journey of establishing truth. We stand united as Africans, whether on the continent or any part of the world, and link up with people of conscience around the world to seek truth and justice and restore the dignity and humanity of victims of the slave trade. This is a resolution of destiny. And I hope all of you will vote tomorrow to establish truth so that together we can pass this historic resolution and finally acknowledge the full horrors of these transgressions against humanity of the approximately 15 million human beings who were enslaved. I thank you very much for your attention.
President Mahama, Professor Edu Jemfi is on the line. He's joining us for a conversation. Prof, thank you for your time tonight. Let us begin with the outcome of the vote. We know it is breaking news. It is just coming in. 123 votes in favor of the declaration, 3 against, and 52 in abstention. Is this surprising to you?
It is, but also it is not surprising because you have some countries in absentia. You have some countries, no matter how few they are, I think the big shots, some of them are in there, right? America is in there. And you're asking yourself that are they not a great beneficiary of this evil that was perpetrated on humanity? Fundamentally, it raises the question that we as human beings, in our collective sense, have not really come to terms with the fact that any form of servitude and bondage and destruction of life, the definition of human beings or the commodification of human beings in itself is detestable, detrimental, and destructive so far as the development of nation states are concerned. And that it goes to the heart and the core of the human dignity. Fundamentally, it's not a cause for us to just jubilate over, but we need to, if you like, reflect on it and appreciate the fact that there are still gaps to fill. If you have over 50, nations in Africa, what informed their posture?
Right.
Why did these 3 countries decide to also vote against? These are critical reflection points we need to reflect on, especially in the history of the United Nations going forward. Because the United Nations itself around this time is being tested across the continent of the world. Its own image is being tested in many respects. Several countries have found themselves in a fix in their dealings with the UN as a body. And today we celebrate some victory, having this discussion come to the forefront and have some form of victory for us to reflect. But it should not end there. It should end in that space where in our contemporary times, no other human being sees another human being as subservient, as, if you like, as chattel. And I bring the subject matter to the racialized tendencies within the sphere, where the West assumes that anything from the so-called global South is weak and wobbly, and perceive of us even as a third world country, the dichotomies propounded by Western theories and academics. So you can leverage on this slave trade question to discuss what it represents in the broader sphere of our current and contemporary history.
Right, Prof. The U.S. makes a case and they describe the whole declaration as highly problematic. The country says it cannot support the agenda even though it acknowledges the wrongs of the past. Now, the rep who spoke for the U.S. says the country is unclear who the recipients of the reparatory justice would be. Is this an argument they can make?
My argument from the word go is the question of reparative justice. My argument from the word go is that the government of Ghana is chasing the ghost. I said that yesterday on your platform, right? One of them. The basis of my argument is that to whom are you going to give that reparation to? Is it the governments of the day? And what purposes are they going to serve? Look, African governments have been indisciplined. They have exercised fiscal indiscipline. Dambisa Moyo wrote that aid. We have received aid from the West, even though severally, if we can properly account, it's our own money they are giving back to us anyway. But we have not really accounted for this money very well. And aid itself has not really made case. The theory of Dambisa Moyo in its empirical sense is a reality. That is why even post-1970s, when the structural adjustment policy came to effect, it in itself also came to disrupt the whole system. And I've said that today. We are still subservient to the European Union, and the dichotomies in terms of trade arrangements between us and the Western powers and countries, there is a great imbalance. And that in itself should tell you a story that African leaders must begin to act right, interstate, intrastate interactions to build a stronger base from the subcontinental level and continental level. ECOWAS, the South corporations, the East African bloc, the Northern Africa, and then encapsulating into a broader framework at the AU right summit, where we begin to rethink the Africans within the country and Africans in the diaspora. I think that what we should be interested in is how we are able to build a synergy with our counterparts, African brothers and sisters, who are found in North America, in Brazil, that holds the largest black population outside of Africa,
right,
and elsewhere, to begin to see how we can build a rapport and also build business, if you like, synergies, and build technological synergies, and see how best we can manifest and utilize, the Africanization agenda, and also industrialize our sphere through technological knowledge and advancement. Look, we can go to the UN, give fast speeches, fantastic resolutions, but what is key is that the actors within the continent must be prudent enough to ensure that enough fiscal discipline is exercised to build the economies of Africa. Fantastic game led by Ghana as usual. Pan-Africanism is the home. Ghana is the home of Pan-Africanism. But I can tell you the truth. There is much more to be done. It is not asking for Europeans and Americans to give us money for wrongs done yesterday.
Right.
It is for us to look at a grand plan. After the Second World War, there was a Marshall Plan, right? Some billions of dollars came from US and elsewhere to rebuild Europe. Is it the agenda that we seek for, that some money should be put in a certain coffers for Africans for them to utilize? But the peer review mechanism that was set up some years ago, we could not even handle that. Peer-to-peer review of African governments. We failed at that. So what are we looking at now? I am not being mischievous, neither am I being a pessimist. But I think that the greatest of the goal is what we have achieved.
Right.
Let's forget about reparation and focus on the future.
Prof, maybe my last one to you. The outcome of the vote, the fact that we had 123 countries voting to adopt this declaration, do you think it is a reflection of how strong African voices are becoming across the globe, or it is just out of sympathy for Africa?
Unfortunately, I have not looked at the figures and the country vote, right? And I want to believe that all African countries voted for. Yes, I want to believe that. But even if there is one in absentia, then it will be surprising to me, and it would even raise further questions. And for us to begin to identify, for better want of the right grammar, that snitch on the continent that might have, done us in. What is important is that when you look at nation states, a single country can change the chemistry of an entire continent. And that's what we have seen in North America with the opulence, the pride, and the Yankee bluff of the U.S. And so there is always a country that must show leadership. Ghana has done that. Our size and military might not say so, but we have character, we have strength, and we have strong mental acumen. And I think it's a good day for Ghana and for the continent of Africa.
Right, Prof. Thank you for joining us for that conversation on the breaking news coming in from the UN headquarters that says Ghana's motion for the United Nations to declare the transatlantic slave trade as a grievous crime against humanity has been adopted by the UN. At the end of voting, 123 countries voted in favor of the declaration. 3 countries voted against the motion, and then 52 countries were in abstention. Let us also know what you make out of these votes, the outcome of the vote. What do you think this will make or mean for the African continent, and also especially because President Mahama and others have been championing it? We'll be glad to hear from you on what you make out of this. This is Hot Edition on 3FM. Time now for us to do business. Bismarck Wisa is standing by. He's got the latest in the world of business. Stay with us.
Breaking news on 3FM 92.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also coming up tonight, Parliament passes value for money official bill to boost oversight, transparency and efficiency in public spending and procurement. We'll bring you details of this story and others. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Parliament has passed the Value for Money Office Bill 2026, clearing the way for the creation of a new independent body tasked with strengthening oversight of public spending and procurement. The legislation, which was introduced in February by Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atuforsin, establishes a specialized institution aimed at embedding efficiency, transparency and accountability across government expenditure. On the floor of Parliament, Dr. Forson described the bill as a necessary response to long-standing inefficiencies in the country's public financial management system. Moving on, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has announced a competitive bidding process to select a new operator for the Damang gold mine following the expiration of Goldfield's lease on April 18, 2026. In a statement released by the Lands Minister, Emmanuel Amakufibua designated the mine as a key national asset and outlined a strategy to ensure zero operational downtime during the transition. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report.
According to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, immediate steps have been taken to safeguard existing jobs and maintain current service contracts. A transparent process will be used to select a credible operator. The transition aims to increase Ghanaian-centered ownership and long-term investment in the mining sector. The ministry emphasized that the move is part of a broader effort to strengthen the industry while securing the mine's continued contribution to export earnings and the national economy. Meanwhile, Goldfields has confirmed that the transition of the Damang gold mine to Government of Ghana is nearing completion, with the official transfer of ownership scheduled for April 18, 2026.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on government launching bidding for Damang mine as Goldfields lease expires next month. Before we go, Fitch Ratings has affirmed Ghana's long-term issuer default rating to B- with a stable outlook while introducing a new RR4 recovery rating. This metric indicates that investors can expect average recovery prospects in the event of a default, reflecting the first time Fitch has incorporated such assumptions into its sovereign debt ratings.
It was affirmed Ghana's B credit rating with a stable outlook, officially moving the country out of its under criteria observation status following a 2025 regulatory update. For the first time, Fitch introduced an RR4 recovery rating, signaling that investors can expect average recovery levels. In the event of default, Ghana earned high ESG marks, specifically a 5+ for rule of law and control of corruption. This places Ghana in the 51st percentile globally for governance, reflecting stable political transitions and moderate institutional strength. Ghana's unsecured long-term debt ratings remain directly aligned with its issuer ratings, though they remain sensitive to future economic shifts.
And that was a report on Fitch affirming Ghana's B- rating amid shifting global outlook. Meanwhile, Fitch Solutions streams projection to 5.5% from 5.9% amid Middle East tensions. And that brings us to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. Oreku Ampofo is here for Sports News. Please stay.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo. We start off from the camp of the Black Stars, where Communications Director of the team, Henry Asante Chum, has praised Antoine Semenyo after the forward clinched his first career trophy last Sunday as Manchester City defeated Arsenal in the Carabao Cup final. Henry says that Semenyo's achievement is a step in the right direction.
He's become the talk of town. Without a doubt, one of our top players at the moment, and it couldn't have been any better celebrating him for that feat. Yes, they are still in contention for the Premier League, currently second in the table. So once you have a player who is performing at a very, very, very top level, it's a major boost for the team. We appreciate whatever he's doing for Manchester City, whatever he's doing for his side. And then also as a federation, we are very, very happy that we made a decision to bring him to Ghana about 4 years ago when not much was known about him when he was playing for Bristol City. He went to the World Cup as a championship player 4 years ago, and within 4 years he's moved from Bristol to Bournemouth and now at Manchester City. That's a major leap, for Antoine, and it couldn't have been any better.
That was Henry Asante Chum, who is the Communications Director of the Ghana Football Association. Finally, before we go, the Court of Arbitration for Sport has confirmed that Senegal has appealed the decision to award Morocco as winners of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, asking to restore Senegal as the original winners. My colleague Billy Shen provides more details in the following report.
So 25th of March marks a very significant day in African football as Senegal have officially submitted their appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, trying to overturn a decision that was made by the CAF Appeals Board on the 17th of March, stating that Senegal had flouted Article 82 of the CAF regulations, and hence the tournament, that is the AFCON 2025, was awarded to Morocco with a 3-0 victory. Senegal are seeking to overturn this decision. CAS has already stated that they have received the brief, but have also stated that they cannot determine the procedural timeline for the first hearing. Senegal have requested for an immediate suspension of the time limit to submit an appeal brief until the CAF decision is notified with full grounds, because the decision that was made on the 17th of March was operative only. And according to the CAS procedural rules, the appellants, which is Senegal in this case, they're usually supposed to have 20 days to file an appeal brief with legal arguments, and the respondents, which will be CAF and the FRMF, will also have 20 further days to submit an answer containing a statement of defense. And so we'll wait to see exactly how it will turn out, but a representative of the Court of Arbitration for Sports has stated that they are confident that they have the necessary resources to give a fair hearing and a fair ruling. And so the African people will also be waiting for what happens within the Court of Arbitration for Sports regards to the 2025 AFCON final decision.
Well, that was a report by my colleague Billy Shen, bringing an end to the sports segment here on Hot Edition. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
Kwampafu, ending the sports segment. And that's it for our package on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Many thanks for joining us. You can log on to 3news.com and get some more stories there. Let us know what you feel about all the stories we've given you tonight. But before we go, let's just quickly recap on that voting that happened at the UN headquarters today on the adoption of slave trade as a gravest